Some men aren't looking for anything logical, like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and it's time for my latest comic book review. Today, we're going to be talking about Batman 3 Jokers, Book 3, the finale of DC Comics' latest Black Label offering from Geoff Johns and Jason Fabok. And a little, definitely got to give a nod to the color artist Brad Anderson as well. These guys absolutely been knocking it out of the park with Batman 3 Jokers. Now, this is definitely a highly recommend, but, you know, the first two issues, I believe, were 4.5-star comics. This is a 4-star. This is a good ending. This is a very good comic book story. It's not quite what I expected the ending to be. I thought we were going to get, I don't know, something more about the Joker or the three Jokers and how they fit into this or how they fit into continuity. We've been told that Batman 3 Jokers is within continuity. I defy anyone to explain to me how that's possible. Just with the look of the comic, like where does it take place that these characters are wearing these uniforms? I don't think this can be possible. This is an Elseworld story. Until somebody can prove otherwise, I will say this. On Saturday or Sunday, Perch is going to join me, and we're going to wrap up Batman 3 Jokers of the story. Maybe he'll be able to break it down for me. If you have a theory how this book is in continuity, which I've been told it is, but I don't believe it, definitely let me know in the comments section because I just don't see it. Although I really do. I like Elseworld story. I specifically like DC Comics Elseworld story. I think nobody does it better than DC Comics. And it's a huge part of their legacy. You just think about Red Sun, Dark Knight Returns, Watchmen, all kinds of great stories not within continuity. And, you know, we definitely got to mention The Killing Joke, which this comic, I wouldn't say it's a straight homage to, but it's definitely inspired by it. So I enjoyed this comic a lot. I have a couple of issues with it, and we're definitely going to talk about that when I get into the details. But before I do that, I do want to say, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, but you're enjoying the content, subscribe to Thinking Critical YouTube. Hit the bell for notifications. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoy this review. Give me a thumbs down if you don't. Either way, I definitely want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on Batman 3 Jokers Book 3 or any of them? You know, this is essentially the end of the book, the end of the series. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments section. Let's get some comic book debate going. That's the best thing about the comic book community is getting together and talking about this stuff and arguing about it and agreeing on it. And that's definitely what I want this channel to be. I want this to be a place where we can come, we can argue, we can discuss, you know, these comic books and things like that. So definitely be a part of that. Get in the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts on Batman 3 Jokers are. Now let's get into the details of this. And the first thing I got to talk about, this is, if you're just talking about art from Jason Fabok, Brad Anderson, this is a 5-star comic book. This is the best illustrated comic book in all of comics in 2021. All 3 issues, what are they? They 60 pages? I think it's something like that. I think they're about 60 pages each. So like 180 pages of comic book with this level of art is fantastic. It's an achievement in and of itself. You can tell that DC gave Jason Fabok the time he needed. Obviously, Geoff Johns gave him a great script, and he delivered a flawless product. Just look at this page on the left. We got the pictures of all the Jokers that have been infected, but they didn't take the Zookeeper, the actor. We got the Stalker, and then obviously we have the 3 big ones: the criminal, the comedian, or I'm sorry, the criminal, the one that's dead is the clown, and then the bottom at the bottom is the comedian. Just a beautifully illustrated pages here. And that's one of the interesting things is that they kind of introduce a lot of information, or a little bit of information actually, about the 3 Jokers and what kind of separates them in Bruce's mind. Like one of them's more maniacal, you know, kind of thing. But they don't really hit on them a lot. That's kind of one of the things I wanted more out of this. And I also got to give a big shout out to Jason Fabok and his use of the 9-panel grids. Those can be so pretentious. They can be really boring. Just think about what Tom King and all of his collaborators have done with the 9-panel grid and just destroyed it. This is how you do it. That is a 9-panel grid. That is dynamic artwork in motion, using those panels to the best of their ability. I don't know why. I just love that page. Although neither of these pages are my favorite page of art, I am going to show that later because it comes up within the story that I'm going to talk about. But I'm definitely going to point it out because it's awesome. There's a couple of pages similar to it, but Jason Fabok just really destroyed it in this comic book in a very good way. Brad Anderson and Jason Fabok definitely deserve some awards, some credit. Probably deserve a bonus for making this comic book look like $1 million. And it absolutely does. And and that's not even to mention the covers that they did, but all the variants. Just job well done. This is what when DC Black Label was announced, this is what DC Black Label was supposed to be. The very best creators working with the very best artists, not being constrained by DC Comics continuity, creating Elseworld stories with the best DC characters. And I don't think we've really gotten that very often. Obviously with Batman Damned, Batman Last Night on Earth. In theory, Superman Year One, but in my opinion, that comic book is a train wreck. But in theory, you got Frank Miller, John Romita Jr. on a comic book. It meets criteria, but I think the end result of that comic didn't quite meet the spirit of what I thought Black Label was supposed to be. But this is certainly fits that. Like this is what a premium comic book. If you want to charge me $6 or $7 for a comic book, this is what it should look like. Probably not always to this, but you know what I mean. This is what people should be striving for to give people what they deserve for the money they put into it. And it's too bad we're not getting that from DC Black Label. Although there's cool stuff on there. I'm glad that The Last God's being produced. And there's a few series on there I really like a lot, but there isn't much that's doing what this is. This is doing, and this is what DC Black Label was supposed to be when it was announced. It's too bad it never really met this. Never really achieved what I believe the original vision for DC Black Label was. Now, getting into the story, there's some issues with the story, probably with my own expectations that I don't think got met. And I'm going to talk about this. This is the part of the story that I think has issues just on its own merit. At the end in Three Jokers issue 2, it felt like Bruce and Barbara were conflicted, and Bruce was kind of ignore the fact that Jason Todd Red Hood had murdered one of the Jokers. And it felt like it was because Bruce felt a sense of guilt, like it's not Jason's fault he did that. I kind of let what happened, it's kind of my fault that he had his head beat in with a crowbar, and he felt a certain amount of guilt, like maybe he shouldn't be in prison for that because he wasn't in his right mind. And that's the way I interpreted it. But here we get a distinct explanation that is not the case. The reason that Bruce Wayne is not taking Jason Todd to jail is because he's afraid. The only witness to the murder is Barbara Gordon. She'll have to testify, meaning she'll have to remove her identity. And then eventually Bruce Wayne's own identity as Batman will be exposed. And that is the reason they're not doing anything about Jason Todd. Now, the first reason where he feels a sense of guilt, yes, obviously he did something wrong, but he doesn't think Jason was in his right mind. That's morally ambiguous. I think it's wrong, but I can see from that character's perspective where he feels like a sense of like it was kind of his fault and it wasn't really Jason Todd's fault. Was he even sane at the time? I can see that. But here, this is not morally ambiguous. This is bad. Like, this is wrong. Bruce Wayne covering up a murder or not having a murderer held accountable, even if the person he killed was bad, goes against Bruce Wayne's code. And it's not morally ambiguous. This is wrong. And I think I don't know, does this work for the character for you? Because it felt wrong to me. I liked the first feeling that I got about this. I don't like when they kind of explained it because it didn't feel in character with Bruce. I think Bruce would expose his own identity to see someone brought to justice. That's what I think the character of Bruce Wayne is. And this completely goes against that. So I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? Did you have the same issues I did with this conflict? Also, another interesting thing about this, and this was probably my own expectation. Obviously, we saw Jason Todd get hit in the head with the crowbar again, basically reliving his trauma at the hands of the Joker. We saw Bruce Wayne have to go and confront or go see where Joe Chill was, and he was kind of having to go and relive his loss, his trauma in his life, losing his parents. And I thought, well, how are they going to do Barbara Gordon? Obviously, she got shot, in the Killing Joke. They essentially reenacted the event on Jason Todd. They do not do that with her. She sees the comedian with the camera, obviously, just like in the story. But he does not shoot her in the back. In fact, he shoots Jason Todd. He does not try to tie her up or bound her or anything like it had in that story, which I understand is controversial. Do you really want to reenact that in a modern day comic? I'm not sure. But all she does is she sees him with the camera and then she breaks it on his face. So I thought that was a letdown because the other characters had to really go in and explore their own trauma. She's reminded of it and overcomes it immediately. So I thought the boys got done dirty compared to the girl in this comic as far as what they made the character go through. Although she did have to witness the murder of a Joker at the hands of Jason Todd. So maybe that was the trauma that she experienced. But, she's Batgirl. She's seen a lot of people get killed. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting. Not what I expected at all. The most interesting part of this comic book, and this is my favorite panel of art right here, is with Batman in the Monarch Theater. That's where a majority of this comic book takes place, is the Monarch Theater. And you can see Joe Chill. He's been bound by the criminal, and he's confessing to why he killed Bruce Wayne's parents. And you can see he's using his harness. He's moving up, and he's witnessing Joe Chill confess to the murders and explain why he did it. I thought that was beautiful. There's a few panels like that where there's Jason Todd fighting some criminals or some Jokers off. With that in the background, I think they all look amazing within the theater. I think it's a really cool shot. That's a money shot right there. This is my favorite, probably my favorite panel of art in the entire 3 series. I thought this was gorgeous. This was really cool. He's helpless, on his own device, and he just has to witness what this man is saying. He doesn't know what he's going to say, whether it be good or bad. One of the interesting things about this comic is essentially Joe Chill he's not redeemed. But he explains, when I saw the Waynes, I knew who they were. And, Thomas Wayne kind of represented him existing was the reason that me and my family was poor. And I kind of, when I saw him, I wanted to take everything that he had and take it for myself because that's how I felt about him. And I did not know who he was. I did not see his son there. As I realized his son was with him, I pulled the trigger. Doesn't exactly make sense because he also kills his wife right after that in the story, but I guess they're retconning it to make Joe Chill a more sympathetic character. Then he explains, I didn't realize Thomas Wayne and the Wayne family were good people. They were trying to save the city from the abyss. So we kind of get that, and Bruce Wayne has to confront that fact that the man that murdered his parents isn't evil. He was desperate. Was he bad? Absolutely. He murdered him. But he wasn't evil to the core. He is contrite. He feels terrible. He finds out when he talks to his psychologist within I think it's Blackgate, that he's wanted to write Bruce Wayne letters forever to tell him how sorry he is, that he had a 3rd grade education, and he had some disabilities and things like that. So I think that was interesting, and Bruce Wayne essentially is put to the test. They're going to make Joe Chill the ultimate Joker, even though he doesn't hate Bruce Wayne. So that part didn't really work for me. But so they got him hanging over the chemicals. They're going to make a new Joker because the Joker hasn't taken on so many other people. They think Joe Chill will make the ultimate Joker, And they cut the rope. He's going down into the vat. They're going to make a new Joker. Joe Chill. Batman has a decision to make. Do I take down the criminal or do I save Joe Chill, the man that killed my parents? Batman obviously makes the right choice. He goes and makes the save. Saves him again after that. And he reconciles with Joe Chill in the end. And I thought that was cool. That was a very interesting take on the character. And this character, for a comic called The Three Jokers, this is a Batman comic, a Batman family comic. I thought that was interesting, but I enjoyed this. This is easily the strongest part of this entire comic as far as book 3. Now, like I said, I was disappointed in this comic book because I thought we were going to get something transcendent about the Joker himself. How do 3 Jokers exist? What is the importance of that? Obviously, it got introduced within the Mobius chair, was reintroduced in the very beginning of Rebirth. It felt like something important. And I thought we were going to learn something about the Joker. Really, you only learn anything about Batman, that he was willing to forgive Joe Chill. There's some more in the epilogue that I'm going to get into here in a bit. But in the end, this is just a typical Joker plot. The comedian kills the criminal. You thought the criminal was in charge. The criminal was not in charge. The comedian was in charge. He kills the criminal. There's only one Joker left. And he says, "Take me in, boys." And they're in the back of this van. And he kind of explains how it was his plan all along that we'll turn Joe Chill. He'll buy it. But what he really wanted to do is he wanted to show Batman that Joe Chill wasn't evil and make him forgive him. So Joe Chill's murdering his parents will no longer be the driving force in his life. That Joker will be the driving force in his life because he's in love with him or whatever. He wants to be the most important thing in the history of Batman's life. So he needed him to see that Joe Chill wasn't evil and that Joe Chill wanted to apologize and realize what he did was wrong. Typical Joker plot. I want you to love me, Batman. And so he says, you saved the man who killed Thomas and Martha Wayne, who sent Gotham and you spiraling into the drain of despair. You saw the old, regretful, sad sack Chill's become. You felt his pain, and it gave relief to yours. Ha! I healed your greatest wound, so now I can be your greatest pain. Me, I'll cut you, I'll hurt you, I'll keep twisting that knife until the day we both die together. Is that a transcendent Joker story? Is this something about Joker we didn't already know? Not really. It's a good story, but my expectations were that we were going to learn something new, something different about Joker, and we didn't. So that's why I highly recommend this. It's a beautiful comic book. This is a good story, but it's not something we've never seen before. Maybe it's some of the execution, but as far as what is being presented, not really different. Now, there is some interesting things happening in the epilogue. Obviously, Joe Chill was saved. Bruce Wayne does pick up the letters that Joe Chill was trying to write to him. All those years, he reads them. He's obviously in there. They hold hands. He forgives him. Joe Chill dies. It appears that Bruce Wayne has had him buried, maybe in the Wayne family cemetery. That would be strange. But that's kind of the way I interpret that. They also do some resolution to the Barbara Jason Todd thing, which I still think was forced and completely unnecessary to this story. Like, it never provided anything. The only thing you got is a follow-up. Well, I guess there's one point she goes, we both interpreted this differently. And he writes her a letter basically saying how much he's admired her. And, I know what happened you think was a mistake, but I don't know. I did not like this part about Jason Todd. Let's just say that. I did not like this characterization. This is Jason Todd. But I think we could be great together. I really do. I'll give up being Red Hood for us. I can be something else. Or I can be Jace. Or I can just be Jason. All I need is one chance to prove to you I can be better. And I will devote my life to making you proud, happy, loved. If you don't think I'm worth one chance, it was all just you caught up in everything. Just throw this letter away. I'll never mention it. I'll even understand. And then we see at the end, the letter falls off the door. And a janitor cleans it up, so she'll never see the letter, and he says he'll never mention it. I don't know. Is Jason Todd a simp? Is he going to give up everything just to make Barbara Gordon happy? I'm not certain. And then the last part is the most interesting reveal, and I thought this was misused. If this was going to be the very end of the comic book, the reveal that they were getting, what would have been interesting is Joker's always turning the tables on Batman, and Batman's having to kind of save himself. Batman's had one in the holster this whole time that he could have used on Joker. And I really wish maybe that they would have incorporated this information we learned at the very end, and Batman turned the tables on Joker, maybe drove him insane. Because it turns out Batman figured out who Joker was within the first week of meeting each other. That very beginning scene where the comedian is daydreaming about being with the family and you thought it was a daydream. No, that was not a daydream. That was real. He did have a wife. He did have a son. Bruce Wayne figured out who they were, and they basically told whoever the Joker is that your wife and child died. Like there was an electrical fire. You know, we're sorry. And he relocated them, and I guess he's probably been funding their lives, hiding them from the Joker. And he knows his name, but he'll never say it. And he said his name's not important. If that information got out in the public, people would find out where these people are, and then the Joker would come after them. I wish he would have taken the knowledge that he had a wife and son, and that he knew where they were, and put them on Joker, and maybe put him to the test. I think that could have been a more interesting take on the character. That would have been something different, using that information against Joker himself. I don't know. That's just my thought on that. This is a good comic book. That was a really interesting reveal. Batman has always known who the Joker is. He relocated his family, but he'll never say his name because it's not important. He doesn't want anyone to find out. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts on Batman 3 Jokers? I enjoyed it. It's a really good comic book, but it's not what I expected. I expected something amazing. My expectations were probably too high, but this is a 4-star comic. Highly recommend. The art is impeccable. The story is very interesting. Taken as a whole, as far as the 3 issues, certainly worth your time and money, in my opinion. But I did expect more. We did not get a new interpretation of the Joker in this. It is typical Joker plot. I love you. I'm going to cause chaos, and I want to be the most important thing in your life, Bruce Wayne. Now, that has not always been the take on the Joker, but that is a prominent take on the Joker, at least since the 90s. Frank Miller, kind of started writing him. So, in that aspect, I did find it disappointing, even though the story is good, like really good. So, well, that is going to be my review of Batman 3 Jokers Book 3 from Jason Fabok, Geoff Johns, Jason Fabok, and Brad Anderson. Like I said, I'm going to do a wrap-up with Comics by Perch on Saturday or Sunday. Talk about this like in totality, what we think about the story. Is this a new classic? Is this something that will be revisited? Or was this, what I think, a strong story that I don't think changes anything about Batman moving forward or Joker, if I'm being completely honest. I don't know. Want to hear your thoughts. Thank you all for joining me today, and I'll talk to you later. I'll see you later. Talk to you later. One or the other.